On August 13th, 2025, the usually serene capital city of Juneau, Alaska, faced one of its most dangerous natural threats in recent memory, a glacier-dammed outburst flood roaring down from the high ice fields. Triggered by the sudden and massive release of meltwater from Suicide Basin perched above the iconic Mendenhall Glacier, the flood sent the Mendenhall River surging to a record crest of 16.6 feet. In a matter of hours, the peaceful summer landscape was transformed into a powerful force of churning water, uprooted trees, and strained defenses, testing the limits of the city's disaster preparedness and the resilience of its people. The event began quietly in the early morning, with sensors in the basin detecting a rapid drop in water levels behind the ice dam. This was no random incident. Suicide Basin has been a recurring source of such outburst floods for more than a decade. But this time, the sheer volume was staggering. Over 16 billion gallons of water broke free, cascading into Mendenhall Lake before racing downstream into the river. The force of the release churned up sediment, carried large trees in its path, and slammed debris against riverbanks, bridges, and low-lying infrastructure. The National Weather Service issued immediate flood warnings, and city officials quickly followed with evacuation alerts for residents in the floodplain. For many, these warnings stirred up fresh memories of August 2024, when a similar glacial flood damaged nearly 300 homes and left entire neighborhoods under muddy, debris-filled water. This time, however, Juneau was ready. Months earlier, officials had worked with the Alaska Division of Homeland Security, the Army Corps of Engineers, and local contractors to install a 2.5-mile network of temporary flood barriers, an impressive defensive wall built from 10,000 HESCO baskets, each filled with rock and sand. This system, run
Oh, and the other one, oh my goodness.
running along critical stretches of the Mendenhall River was designed to shield at least 460 homes and businesses from the worst of the floodwaters. According to city manager Katie Kuster, this preparation was the key reason the 2025 flood caused far less structural damage than the year before. Still, the danger was palpable. As the waters swelled toward their peak in late morning, drone footage captured a dramatic scene. Massive spruce and hemlock trees, some more than 60 feet tall, ripped from the ground and tossed into the current like driftwood. Side channels filled rapidly, submerging trails, parkland, and parts of the Mendenhall campground. Emergency responders closed several bridges, fearing that logs and debris could pile up against supports and cause structural collapse. For residents near the river's edge, the sound was as frightening as the sight, a constant rumble of rushing water mixed with the snapping of roots and the thud of tree trunks colliding midstream. Some who ignored the initial evacuation notice found themselves scrambling to higher ground when water began lapping at their back doors. Fortunately, coordinated patrols by police, firefighters, and volunteer teams ensured that no one was left stranded. Since 2011, scientists from the National Weather Service and the Alaska Coastal Rainforest Center have tracked Suicide Basin's water levels with automated gauges, time-lapse cameras, and aerial surveys. The monitoring has provided valuable early warnings, but 2025's event reinforced the need for constant vigilance. particularly as climate change accelerates glacial melt. Warmer summer temperatures cause more water to pool in glacier-dammed basins, increasing the frequency and size of these dangerous outbursts. In scientific terms, these events are known as glacial lake outburst floods, sudden releases of water from lakes formed by glaciers or moraines. While Juneau's floods are relatively localized,
Oh, another one.
Gloughs in other parts of the world have wiped out entire valleys in minutes, killing hundreds and reshaping landscapes. Alaska, with its thousands of glaciers, is particularly vulnerable. But 2025's story in Juneau is also one of adaptation. The decision to deploy the massive HESCO barrier system was made in early spring, when city engineers reviewed updated flood modeling that showed Suicide Basin could store more water than previously measured. Mayor Beth Weldon and Governor Mike Dunleavy signed off on the $4.2 million emergency project, with funding drawn from state disaster preparedness grants and federal resilience programs. As the waters peaked and began to recede by mid-afternoon, the relief was visible across the community. Neighborhoods that had been devastated in 2024 stood largely intact, while some basements flooded and several outbuildings were destroyed. The scale of destruction was nowhere near the nightmare of the previous year. The recovery began almost immediately. Crews inspected floodwalls for damage, cleared driftwood from roadways, and began reopening access routes. Utility workers checked power lines and water systems, while city inspectors assessed structures in the inundation zone. For those who evacuated, the return home was bittersweet. Relief that their houses still stood, but unease, knowing this was not the last time they'd face such a threat. Glacial flooding in Alaska has a long history. In 2002, far to the northwest, the Hubbard Glacier blocked Russell Fjord, creating a massive ice-dammed lake that eventually burst, releasing an estimated 5.3 cubic kilometers of water, one of the largest outburst floods in modern history. Even further back, during the last ice age, the collapse of Lake Atna in the Copper River Basin unleashed a mega-flood that reshaped the landscape and may have produced some of the largest known freshwater discharges on Earth. For modern Juneau, the lessons are clear. This is not a one. One-time challenge. Climate models suggest that warming trends will not only make Suicide Basin floods more frequent, but could also trigger similar events from other basins in the Juneau icefield. Preparing for these changes means strengthening infrastructure, expanding flood monitoring systems, and engaging the community in readiness drills. In the aftermath, local officials praised the cooperation between city departments, state agencies, and the public. The coordinated evacuation, clear communication, and quick action to protect property were credited with preventing a disaster from becoming a tragedy. Many residents, recalling the shock and loss of 2024, expressed gratitude for the visible investment in safety, saying they felt more confident facing future floods knowing the city was taking proactive steps. Yet the emotional toll is harder to measure. Even with limited damage, The flood disrupted daily life, caused stress for vulnerable residents, and served as a stark reminder of the precarious balance between life in Alaska's wild beauty and the raw power of its natural systems. For families living along the Mendenhall River, each summer now brings an underlying tension. Watching the weather, checking updates from Suicide Basin, and wondering when the next outburst will come. As scientists continue to refine forecasts and engineers explore more permanent flood defenses, Juneau's experience in 2025 may become a model for other glacier-fed communities worldwide. The combination of early detection, decisive leadership, and robust temporary defenses demonstrated that even in the face of a massive natural hazard, preparation can turn potential catastrophe into a survivable event. The message is clear and urgent. With a warming climate, we cannot stop these floods, but we can choose how ready we are when they arrive. Juneau's story this year is a powerful example of what readiness looks like. And as the rivers recede and life returns to normal, the community knows that the real work, building for the future, is only just beginning.